Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join me this evening. Um, Please like, subscribe, share this video with someone who you think might find it of interest um, or helpful. Hit the little bell icon to get notifications. As I've mentioned before, I have a particular interest in Western culture, Western history. Um, I thought today I would share something um, with regards to the United States and Western history. Um, Today I wanted to look at the Republican Party. Um, in view of the DHS that has recently come out, the fact that for January 6th there are still people in solitary confinement only charged with trespassing, um, it is a concern to me. With I've even had encountered where, half joking, somebody said, "Oh, but you're a Republican, there's a site I can tell people about that." And I'm like, it was only this year I registered as a Republican because the authoritarian behind Mr. Biden and his cohorts was a great concern to me. A gentleman who is serving as the president who can sit there and say, no amendment is absolute, is a person of concern to me. Again, but at the same time, because I've registered as a Republican, I am a concern and now considered an other. The Republican Party is one of the most successful political parties in the United States, the other one being the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party was the party of the South. We'll discuss a little bit about their particular viewpoints as well, even though everybody says how they practice diversity and equity. Since 1868, to date, the presidency has been shared between the two major political parties. Okay, that's when they officially became the two parties. There have been 19 Republican presidents in the United States, and here are some of the Republican presidents in the history of the United States itself. And I want to start with the very first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln. Not a fan at times of his. I do consider him an authoritarian. But at the same time, he is one of, most would agree he is one of the best presidents. Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican president. He was the 16th president of the United States, and he served as president from March 4th of 1861 until his assassination on March 15th, 1865. President Lincoln is credited for leading the country through the American Civil War of 1861 to 1865. His tenure was also marred by political and constitutional crises, including succession threat. Because again, the South succeeded, as well as constitutional crisis, because again, habeas corpus was suspended. Not that I approve of this. Again, however, Lincoln managed to preserve the Union and strengthen the federal government. Again, not so happy he did that. I believe in small government. I believe that the Constitution was written by our forefathers as a document for us to aspire to be better men to be. And once we do aspire to that point, to continue to be better people. So, Lincoln's Emancipation Declaration led to the abolition of slavery in the U.S., and Lincoln was assassinated on April 15th, 1965, by John Booth at the Ford's Theater. We all know how with Kennedy that's kind of flipped, and yeah. The next president I wanted to look at that was a Republican is President Ulysses S. Grant. He is one of the few Republican presidents that has served 2 full terms. The majority of presidents have served less than 8 years, or that he had served 2 full terms. He was the 18th president of the U.S. and the second Republican to ascend to the presidency. Before his election as president in 1869, Grant and Lincoln led the Union Army during the American Civil War. The American Civil War. And as the president during the post-war era, he oversaw the Reconstruction, especially in the South, and the passage of the 15th Amendment, which allowed all citizens to vote, irrespective of their race. This was a Republican who passed that law. James A. Garfield is the next president we're going to look at. He was one of the second shortest serving presidents of the U.S., serving for only 199 days. He also remains the only sitting member of Congress to ascend to the presidency. Garfield became a Republican in 1857 and was elected to the Senate in 1857 to represent Ohio. In 1880, he was chosen by the Republican National Convention as their presidential candidate. And as a president, Garfield's main accomplishment included fighting the corruption of the post office, proposed several civil service reforms, and advocated the civil rights of Black Americans. He was shot July 2nd, 1881, by Charles Gutierre and died September 19th, 1881, due to an infection caused by his doctor. Again, a Republican, also assassinated in office. Interesting that. But, Ronald Reagan. Yeah, I actually happen to like Ronald Reagan. I do remember Ronald Reagan, whereas with the fall of Saigon, I was like 6. Reagan I do remember. I wasn't too happy with Bush. Either of them. Anyways, Ronald Reagan was the 40th president of the United States and the 17th Republican to hold such an office. He is the third oldest president to serve after Donald Trump. Reagan's presidency is credited with many successes in the country, including ending the Cold War, the war on drugs, which, well, let's admit it, that was a failure. Reducing inflation from over 12% to 4.4%, and a tax reduction. However, he is also criticized for the Iran-Contra scandal, which, funny thing is, I don't know a whole lot about that. I mean, I read it in the paper, sort of, when I was in boot camp. Our news was censored on what was going on in the outside world, especially since it was something against the president and we were in the military. You'll understand. Anyways, Reagan survived an assassination attempt on March 30th of 1981. Gosh, what was that guy's name? I know he did it for some actress's attention. And then, of course, we're going to go ahead and we'll take a look at our most recent Republican who has thrown everybody up in arms. That would be Donald Trump. He assumed office as the 45th president of the United States, elected in 2016. He was a media personality and a businessman before he was elected, and he was the second oldest first-term president and the only one without prior government or military experience, because after all, our current president, Joe Biden, is the oldest person to be elected into the office of the president. Anyways, part of the reason I think why so many people had a problem with Donald Trump, There were many reasons, but one of which was, again, he had no prior government or military service. At first, I questioned him myself as to how well he would be as a president. It took a little while. It wasn't until towards the end of his term that I actually started thinking what he was doing was right. Um, because I've lost interest in both parties. The Republicans are usually too much like rhinos, and the Democrats are just a bunch of racists. Ooh, did I say that aloud? I believe it. Um, so the name of the Republican Party was chosen as an acknowledgement of the values of republicanism. Um, hey, it lasted in Rome for quite some time. Anyways, which had earlier been promoted by Thomas Jefferson that we should be a republic and not so much a democracy. The name reflected the Republican values of 1776, including the opposition to corruption and the aristocracy, and the value of civic virtue. The party is nicknamed the Grand Old Party, is referred to the party's successful defense of the Union, and the Republican Party's main symbol, of course, is the elephant. Now, all of this I agree with, but also the Republican Party, as it sits when you have certain people in office, is not what it used to be or what it initially represented. It represented the ideas of our founding fathers more, that we were a republic. We're not a democracy. We're not ruled by the mob, and we shouldn't be. America is a republic where we rely on those leaders that have demonstrated themselves able and capable leaders to lead us. Right now, I personally believe Biden should be impeached. He should resign. He should step down. But what scares me is not only would that make Kamala Harris the president, but that puts Nancy Pelosi one step closer to becoming president. That is also a scary and terrifying concept, and I often wonder where this country is currently going. Anyways, I believe these are these was the intent of our founding fathers. They did try to abolish slavery in the very beginning. Too many people get this wrong, but they honestly tried. The document is there for us to aspire to be better than we are, to be better selves, our better selves, not our baser selves. There are reasons why I agree with some people saying that the Afghani people can be considered barbarians as a whole in certain instances when you're looking at the Mujahideen. I think I said that right. Anyways, before I carry this on too much more, I want to say thank you very much. Take the time to like, subscribe, and share this video with those who you think might be interested in hearing about the history, or a brief history of the Republican Party. Thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, share, and if anything else, have a blessed and beautiful day.